Hi, everyone, and welcome to Be True, my podcast about the writing I love and the writing I do. I promise I won't rhyme the whole time. I'm John Tessitore, and today, whatever you have given, from my chapbook, The Dark Ways Mysterious. You can find The Dark Ways Mysterious and all of my work at johntessitore.com. I've been thinking a lot about self-determination in recent weeks. I suspect a lot of us have been thinking about this in one way or another. American culture has always been a reductive, totalizing culture. That's part of its allure. We've prided ourselves on the metaphor of the melting pot, and it's somewhat true. America absorbs everyone, one way or another, for good or ill, and then it tries to make a single stew, regardless of the damage that process does to individual lives and communities. We've been watching that totalizing impulse take over in recent years, and really bear its fangs today. A culture that once forced us into conformity through subtle means like advertising, or that city on a hill exceptionalism, or dark terms like manifest destiny, or myth creation about the American dream. A culture that once enacted its colonial aspirations through Hollywood and McDonald's is now forcing conformity through blunt force. You know what I'm talking about. It's the revenge of the power suits, the power ties, the men with power complexions, the broken cowards who victimize the weak and vulnerable in order to seem whole, the ones who find democracy too inefficient for their profit drive. You know them from your childhood, from the street corners and schoolyards, from Wall Street and the executive suite. It's the same guys, the broken bullies. They've manipulated our courts, gerrymandered our legislatures, manipulated our media outlets. These old-fashioned bullies are just prancing around now, freely flexing their pasty white flab and expecting everyone else to fall in line. Maybe it's obvious that I don't see myself in their image at all. I've never wanted that kind of power, that kind of machismo, that kind of bully image. Never. And certainly not now. Now more than ever before, I feel myself actually wanting to be me. Me as an act of resistance. Me as a rebellion. Me as an alternative to the assholes I see on the news. Now more than ever, I want to scream, I'm my own fucking person. I often say that my most recent chapbook, The Dark Ways Mysterious, is about the creative, erotic, and forbidden energies that make us human. One of the forbidden energies that most interests me comes from self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is dangerous. Self-knowledge is rebellion. Self-knowledge is a shield. Churches, governments, and corporations have been impeding self-knowledge for centuries. A person with deep self-knowledge is not easily manipulated by advertising or the media, and is therefore a more discerning consumer, which is terrible for capitalism. A person with deep self-knowledge is not easily manipulated by politicians and institutions that operate on the trickle-down theory that what's good for them is good for everyone else, which is terrible for political parties and lobbyists and power brokers. And a person with deep self-knowledge is not easily manipulated by the clergy and priesthoods of the world's faiths, and not as easily convinced of their own fallen or unredeemable state simply because they're human and do human things and make human mistakes. A person with deep self-knowledge is less susceptible to envy, subservience, and guilt, and these are the qualities that power preys on. So that's a dangerous person, and always has been. This is why Zeus punished Prometheus for eternity, because he gave humans knowledge. And more to the point today, it's why God punished Eve, because she accepted fruit from the tree of knowledge. The alternative in both cases was an eternal ignorance, an ignorance of self most of all, and a childish dependency, which is what power and bullies always crave. In that sense, Eve was not only the first woman, but the first adult. For this crime, God said to Eve, and here I'm quoting Genesis, I will intensify the pangs of your childbearing. In pain shall you bring forth children, yet your urge shall be for your husband, and he shall be your master. That's right. God tells Eve she is compelled to desire Adam sexually and also to suffer the painful consequences. To be his servant, sexually above all. This is the fucked up origin story of our culture. The first adult is damned to a life of endless pain and childbearing, according to the whim and will of a man too childish to ask a question. That's some cold shit. So in this poem, I imagined Eve's adult response. Whatever you have given, I have repaid twice over. How can I be blamed for my wonder? How can we, in our private gratitude, worship so far, but no further? The favorite entitled will always fail to see the possibilities, and you, my love, were blind. You needed me to say that something was missing. You needed me to tie you to the tree. Such a deadly waste, unappreciated beauty. Such a crime against nature and humanity in all its messy variety. I wanted the knowledge of your body, your arms and neck, the gently sloping muscle of your back. I wanted to know and feel myself deeply. How can I be blamed for my wonder? How can I be blamed for experience? I created us. The favorite entitled will always fail to see the possibilities, and you, my love, were blind. Here, Eve is telling Adam, the favorite entitled, that because he was so comfortable in his childishness, he did not see what was all around him. And yet, it is precisely because of this blindness that God appointed him the master of Eve. There are a lot of ways to read that judgment, but they're all based on blind obedience and infantilism. You know, long-standing daddy issues. So where are we now? The fragile bullies we've been fretting over for years, the favorite entitled who fail to see the possibilities beyond their own comforts, they continue to expect mastery in America, precisely because their worldviews are so simple, so arbitrary, based on force, and so fucking incurious. In that sense, they really are God's children, with the emphasis on children. And Eve, the curious, the wise, the appreciative, Eve the self-actualized, Eve the adult, Eve remains the outsider. Given the choice, I would stand with Eve 100 times out of 100. At least she knew what was good for food, pleasing to the eyes, and desirable for gaining wisdom. At least she understood discomfort and sacrifice. At least she knew herself. And so, in the hope that you confront the bullies wherever you find them this year, even if you're just fighting for your right to a bite of the apple, this is John Tessitore concluding another installment of Be True. If you've listened this long, thank you. You can find all of my work at johntessitore.com. But first, and I say this without a proselytizing impulse beyond my appreciation for good common sense, go read the Beatitudes. Jesus was really onto something there. We'd do well to remember it. Special thanks to me for today's theme music, which I call E-Chord. Maybe we'll talk again. And if you enjoyed this little podcast, leave some stars or a review and tell your friends. In the meantime, I gotta feed the dog. All right, Luna, I'm coming.